Listen up, losers. This is the Fake Podcast by HIVE Analytics. This podcast covers all things automotive. We're evaluating automotive data, sharing insights, and dropping knowledge. Let's get started.
Let's get started. My name is Kat Banstra. I am the Business Development Manager for HIVE Analytics, and I'll be acting as the moderator for this podcast. I'm joined today by George Lawton, our Operations Director and also connoisseur of socks, and then James Kurtenbach, who is the brains behind the madness here, the founder, CEO, all things HIVE Analytics.
Let's go.
Yeah. So how did we get to this point of
let's
fake
explain
podcasting?
Fake podcast. George will try to explain. Listen up, losers. Fake podcast started because I think it's a really good story. We went to Las Vegas. We went to Digital Dealer. We introduced what we were working on, how it could help people. We didn't know how people would react to it. It's definitely a new methodology. It's a new way of looking at data, and I was nervous. I think you guys are nervous too.
Super nervous.
And to avoid the nervousness, we came up with a strategy for fake podcasts at Digital Dealer with some of our friends in automotive. And luckily, we were way too busy to do that, which is a really good story. I missed Drive-Centric's kind of talk because we were so busy doing demos, which is also an awesome but unfortunate thing.
Yeah.
And so Listen Up Losers comes from a fake magazine, but let's, George, any insights you have on that?
Yeah, well, I've only been on 2 magazine covers in my life. One of them was real, the other was fake, and that was the headline that was used for my fake magazine cover. Cool. I'm hoping to be on a 3rd, and I will certainly continue to use Listen Up Losers if I ever get on another magazine cover and I get that honor.
Yeah.
Maybe we can make it trend. I don't know.
Yeah, that 3rd magazine cover is certainly coming for you.
I know.
Yeah. So let's get into our topic for today. We are talking about third parties. So automotive looks at third parties as a necessary evil, and everywhere else in the world, these are called marketplaces or comparison shopping engines, right? But why do we do this? Because automotive, more or less. We just do what we want to do. But when we're looking at it like that, how are we differentiating this between when we're shopping for a new house on Zillow or Redfin or something like that? But if we're not looking at it in a negative way, we do really have the ability here to start diving deep into these third parties and going, how much is my cost per lead versus cost per car sold?
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's talk about why people hate them.
Yeah.
Because we're super judgy like that, right?
Yes.
So I guess like not everybody hates them, but there is definitely a natural kind of conflict. It takes up a ton of our budgets, like anywhere from 30 to 40% of our media budget goes to these players, CarGurus, Cars.com, AutoTrader, Carfax. They all do similar things, and we're always conflicted because they're expensive. They're also judgy about our inventory. They have they put price badges on there when we know the inventory better than them, and that's the feeling we have. And authentically, sometimes we do. Sometimes the third parties make mistakes or marketplaces make mistakes, and it causes this natural conflict. But I think another example of why we shouldn't be looking at them so negatively is they do provide value. If you think about it from the user's perspective, where else can you look at that many used cars in one spot? We kind of look at Zillow, for instance. How cumbersome would shopping for a house be without Zillow? So I think we lose the empathy for whoever's shopping for a car sometimes in this whole narrative.
Sure. That
there's value in this. And I think with the right mentality, and we're trying to introduce that with HIVE Marketplace, that you can look at them very objectively. You can say, what's my cost per lead? What's my cost per car sold? Have a methodology about it and find insightful things to kind of play the game a little bit better,
right?
A lot faster, and do so without, killing your margins per car and having a really lucid strategy to go against this trend, if you will.
Right.
So
find more opportunities without killing the margin by utilizing the marketplace data.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a necessary thing, has value to the user, so let's play the game right.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah, that's a good point. Good for the dealer, good for the end user.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, George, I can tell you're distracted. Is the ballots coming in or what's going on?
Well, I'm hearing a buzz, but hold on. Oh, yeah. No, the ballots just came in. We have another ballot dump.
Ballot dumps in?
Ballot dumps.
Yeah, the ballot dump's in. Let's go to the polls.
All right, we're going to the polls. Part of the fake podcast is fake polls. So we polled our fake audience, and we have some very conclusive data here. We're trying to figure out what is the best marketplace. And according to the fake data, Carfax is king.
Yep.
We have Cars.com in second, CarGurus in third, Auto Trader. Another controversial one I think we got some write-ins here for TrueCar, and definitely have some write-ins for carsforsale.com.
Yeah, that was not on the
That was
ballot.
not on the ballot.
Mm-hmm.
So a couple of things. TrueCar, I mean, we got to note they're very interesting. We see a lot of actually used car opportunities coming in from kind of the new version of TrueCar that I think we should not ignore. And Cars for Sale, I mean, it's $99 a month. I mean, who doesn't like that?
Right.
So, George, why is Carfax king?
Well, Carfax is king because it has the best overall value for both the dealer and for the consumer. Through Carfax, through the Carfax.com, customers can find information about the vehicle's history, service history, and it's really tailored to those people who are interested in what's the history of this vehicle and ensure that aligns with what they want to purchase. Now, from the dealer's perspective, it's also brings a ton of value because of its price point. It's much more affordable than the other channels. Carfax actually just recently introduced new car listings as well, which is going to put them even higher up in this listing, higher than number one.
Higher.
Higher, yeah.
New elevations.
New elevations. But because of the price point and the low cost per lead that Carfax provides, we have deemed it as king. And another thing that they do is they do not inundate the user and flood their pages with sponsored ads and all that garbage that we all know is kind of irrelevant in the first place. So Carfax, number one, soon to be above number one.
Yeah.
Okay, you got Carfax number one on your list?
I agree with George. I think that he kind of said it all in that, you have a really great value proposition for your dealer, right? But then you also have this unequivocally, it's undeniable. Carfax shows you exactly what the value for the vehicle is, and it validates it to the client. Everyone's happy. You can see everything in one place. But I have to make one judgmental statement here that we didn't talk about, particularly with Auto Trader. Who's using it? It's our 50+ crowd.
Yeah, it's our Bing, kind of Bing search engine type person. It does get a lot of phone calls. It closes higher than everybody else. There's no doubt.
Right.
You do look at that if you study the data, but, as we'll get into, what to do with this data, the cost per lead and the cost per car sold, we gotta take a hard look at that when you look at Auto Trader.
We also have to make a disclaimer that this is not sponsored and or paid for by Carfax.
Certainly
Sure.
not.
Sure. All right, so everybody likes to beat up on CarGurus. Let's talk about them for a minute. So CarGurus, there's a love-hate relationship with CarGurus. Often what you'll see, and we see it all the time, that CarGurus ends up on top when it comes to the volume. So this isn't a volume game. This is the fake podcast and fake poll is about what's the best one, and that's an overall context. But I don't think there's any doubt that CarGurus still kind of holds that top spot in volume. And there's a lot of conflict between dealers and CarGurus. They're very good at what they do. They serve up relevant results. They understand their user. Simply put, they're good at digital marketing.
Very good.
So what happens is basically this kind of extending your inventory across multiple mediums. They're best at that. But what also happens if you study your CRM is you get a lot of leads on the same VIN because they know the popular cars, they know what to serve. And so when you're looking at your data and you're studying it correctly, in our humble opinion, you often see that they're the leader in the cost per lead, but you got to be careful on the cost per car sold. So, and it's a really good conversation to have with your reps to make sure that it makes sense for your automotive empire. So, any other thoughts on these? We're going to call them marketplaces. We're going to start a movement here.
Yeah.
Third party needs to die. That just doesn't make any sense.
I've got a thought just real quick on the Cars.com, second place. I mean, it almost won the election here, but Cars.com also provides some unique value and value propositions that the others don't, and that they integrate very well with social channels and with websites like Dealer Inspire and things like that, and send a lot of referring traffic. So Cars.com sends a lot of referring traffic, sometimes more so than the other channels.
Yeah, they I think by far on this list they're the most dealer friendly. Like they don't have negative sentiment on our pricing values. They send traffic to the site. They understand the value of that. I think they also support the dealers pretty well with their network of reps too. There's they're one call away and they give us the attention we need. So shout out to Cars.com on that one.
Yeah.
Cool.
Close race.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to cut away for a fake commercial, and then we'll be right back.
Hey, do we actually want, if people want to sponsor this podcast?
Yeah.
We'll take non-fake commercials too.
We'll take non-fake
All right.
commercials.
Until then, we'll do our fake
then.
commercials.
Yeah. We'll work on that. We'll come up with a form or just email me for non-fake commercials.
Awesome.
Co-op is a complex process with many moving parts. That is why we invented a new app, Co-opable. Just ask the app if your spending plans are co-opable. Hey, Aunt Siri, I need to do a direct mail piece for service. Is that co-opable?
Yes. Just ensure you check your zip codes against your PMA list and get pre-approval and go on with your bad self.
My GM asked for courtside tickets to the Lakers game and asked it to be co-opted. Is that co-opable?
No, never. Please check to make sure your GM is not a mouth breather.
Decrease the complexity, increase the number of successful submissions with Co-opable. And just in case you are wondering, Co-opable is not currently co-opable and is being evaluated by Shift Digital to be co-opable. You can learn more about Co-opable at coopable.com/co-opable.
Co-opable, 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 co-opable.
Welcome back. We hope you enjoyed our fake commercial. So now we're kind of getting into the segment here of what the data is telling us. And while this podcast is fake, our polls are fake. HIVE analytics is very real. And we're also overseeing a market stack for Champ Automotive, and we're evaluating CRM data for other groups as well. So we kind of talked about how we felt about the poll and the results and where everyone stands for us. But CarGurus is number one in volume. Carfax is the best cost per lead. And Auto Trader has the highest close ratio, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how are we going to measure this properly?
Yeah, you use the power of benchmarking. It's a very difficult thing to do in your CRM. There's a lot of what we call chatter in a CRM, right? So you might have Carfax represented like 5 different times in your CRM. You might have trade-in leads. You might have, true leads on VINs coming from the phone and the intranet. It's a mess, right? So you got that, and that's true for all of them.
Yeah.
So when that's true for all of them, it becomes a very cloudy situation for someone who's managing the marketing stack to actually tell a lucid story of what's actually working, right? So that's step one. That's kind of one side of what we do as well, is kind of remove that chatter from CRM, bring everything into one spot so you can do that benchmarking, kind of clean it up and make it easy to look at, right? And compelling and fun. I hope everybody agrees with that when they have a chance to see it. The second thing you do is you have to have a methodology. Like, how are you going to benchmark these things together when they're not the same, right? So you got to create some metrics that make sense. So, George, we've studied this a long time, right? Like, been working on it for years, actually.
Years.
What's the methodology we bring to our sales leaders when we're talking about these parties?
Cost per lead and cost per car sold. Those are the two things that we measure. How much did I spend? How many opportunities did it deliver to the CRM? Of those that got to the CRM, how many did we sell? Divide that by how much you invested, you get your cost per car sold.
Over a period of time that's more than 30 days.
Yeah, we tend to look at it in 90-day increments because you want to give records, or leads, as some people call them, time to close. And that's one of the things that we are trying to evangelize people who look at data to look at things outside of not just a 30-day window. It is important to look at it in that 30-day window, but looking at it over a longer period of time, you give those opportunities more time to close, and you can look at a larger picture.
Simple statistics, more records, more valid your assumptions are, or your interpretation of the data, right?
Absolutely.
So when you do 90 days, you get a substantial amount of investment. So you add up those 3 months, a substantial amount of records in your CRM, so you can kind of make some better decisions, right?
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, we also do, we believe in giving our marketplaces a little bit more credit than what's in our CRM.
A lift.
A lift, yeah. So we've came up with 30%. So 30% we apply to the sold. The reason we do that, we have to be honest with ourselves in automotive. A lot of people know what happens when you submit a lead into a dealership. You're going to get called, you're going to get emailed, you're going to get texted. Don't really care what time of day it is, stuff like that. You might have a bot actually reach out to you as well.
Sure.
In the middle of the night. So people know, they wise up after a couple times. So we have to be cognizant that happens. I think you also have to acknowledge for sure that they're sending you really quality traffic too, some things that are not lead forms. And I think we're often, because this conflict that we have with the third parties, we're not giving them the credit that they deserve.
Yep.
So we've come up with 30%. We spent time talking to all the reps and some thought leaders about that topic, and really kind of came in at an average of 30%. So
Yep.
when we're reporting to our stores, we give them that lift. and to make sure that we acknowledge there's things you can't measure in the CRM. And
Right.
but there are indicators that are definitely true.
Sure.
People talking about it. The phone calls that come in from it give you an indication, as well as the website traffic. I think is the most legitimate kind of tangible thing we can do
Absolutely.
to look at. So we give that 30%, and then so that's kind of the CRM side of it. The other side that I think is important to look at is how do you play this game, like we mentioned earlier, right? So the badging game we're going to get into in the second episode. But also you got to aggregate this information too from these marketplaces. They provide us really good insights on our inventory, not only like how we're priced, but some of our merchandising things. There's really good value in what they're providing outside of just giving us opportunities in our CRM. So I think it's important. It's the kind of the latest mission that Hive's on is marketplace. So we would love to show it to you. I think it's going to make your life so much easier. So the just kind of the high level overview of that is put all of your marketplaces into one spot, isolate the inventory that can be moved to the next badge level, and then execute, right? And do it in context of how much activity is on those set of vehicles. So look forward to showing anybody that wants to see it, but change your life, as they say.
Sure.
That will change your life. We're confident about that.
Yeah.
We're super confident about that.
Yeah, we're excited to show that to you in the next episode. And in closing, if you want to send in any questions to our fake podcast, you can submit your question through the link below, and we will send you a real hat and sticker for sending that information in. So our next topic is going to be on pricing to the market. We're going to dive into the marketplaces and go over how to utilize those tools to price your cars, to merchandise your cars, and represent your inventory as best you can in the market to get the most opportunities.
Yeah. Sounds great.
Okay, Kat, you want to introduce 40, slightly over 40?
Yeah. So this is going to be our last little tidbit here for this episode, but we are doing our list of 40 slightly over 40.
It's a new award, I heard.
It's a new award.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's should be honored if you're on this
Prestigious,
list.
yeah.
So George and I slightly over 40,
Yep.
but we're not eligible for this.
Because we've been on magazine covers?
True.
Yeah. The magazine covers
And I think because we're declaring who's going to be the winner as well. But
Oh, that's right.
we're judging.
Yeah, we're very judgy about it. So 40, slightly over 40. Look for more content about that. Celebrating our gray-haired leaders as well as our young people. So
Yeah,
we
so
feel
if
like
you
we have a responsibility to do that.
If you know somebody who's slightly over 40 who should be on the list of nominees for slightly over 40, please send in their information. We'll consider them as a candidate.
We'll consider them. Keep a lookout on our LinkedIn page for the way to nominate and who our winners are going to be.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much for joining us for the first episode of the Fake Podcast by Hive Analytics, and we'll be back next time.